Hey y'all, today we have Omar Ruiz from NFL Network, has been on a few times, excellent guest. Actually, like I said, the last time he was here, I got to see him when he was in Washington, interviewing Jalen Hurts, and he got the backdrop with all of us crazy fans screaming, and now it's fast forward so many weeks later, and the Birds are in the Super Bowl, KC versus the Eagles. It's very exciting. If you would have said, midway through the season, you get a Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl, people would be pretty excited about it, even not Eagles fans. But Omar, are you generally pretty pleased with the matchup we got here?
Oh, it's a fantastic matchup. And I think when you look at the season as a whole, these were the two best teams all year long, the most consistent teams. And I think we even talked early in the year, after that game in Washington where they were thoroughly dominant. And that was coming off a game against Minnesota on Monday Night Football that they dominated the Vikings. And that was a Vikings team that was coming off a week 1 win against Green Bay. And so we figured Minnesota's going to be a pretty good team, and the Eagles took They took it to Washington. Carson Wentz, 9 sacks. That was early on. I was pretty sold, pretty convinced, and how good they were. And sure enough, they proved that year in week in and week out. And I think we talked maybe before the season, and I think the talk of the Eagles was we saw what foundation they laid last year and how they closed the season, how Jalen Hurts came along and they went to the playoffs as a wild card. And I think from my perspective, I probably wasn't alone in saying this, I think if Jalen Hurts became a superstar, this team would become a Super Bowl contender, because it seemed like
you did say that.
Howie Roseman had a big, wonderful offseason, adding so many pieces. Just the natural growth you'd get from younger players, and obviously the A.J. Brown trade and all of that. And that's what happened. Jalen Hurts became a superstar, an MVP finalist, just such a tremendous leader. We've talked about,
absolutely,
really his entire career. He's been in the public eye. He's been a great leader, but became a fantastic player this year. And the results are what you've seen. Now we get 2 number 1 seeds going head to head. Patrick Mahomes, 2-time MVP, Super Bowl champ, and Jalen Hurts trying to join him in that exclusive fraternity of Super Bowl champions.
Absolutely. All week, the talk has been about it being potentially a shootout. Are you seeing that as the game flow? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think Philly's going to be afraid, to attack. I think, the question was asked of Nick Sirianni, are you going to try to play keep away and pound the ball? And I think the Eagles believe in themselves, and they have every right to. They have one of the most dominant lines in football, if not the best offensive line. And Devontae Smith and Quez Watkins and A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert have proved more than capable to push the ball down the field, and Jalen Hurts delivering. And then the deep backfield, it's amazing how, whether it's Gainwell or Scott and Sanders leading the way, all of them contribute. So they are so well-balanced, so well-rounded on offense that, they're going to go and try to score points. They're not going to worry about playing keep away with Patrick Mahomes. So certainly I could see this being one of those blockbuster 38-35 games, or like we saw in Super Bowl 52, a 41-33 shootout when the Eagles beat the Patriots.
And I just, I feel like, albeit the crazed Eagles fan here saying this, but I feel like even the notion that the Eagles, play keep away with the ball as if they don't have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert, I feel like that's insulting. Like, we're not just a ground and pound football team. We can do that and run for 300 yards on somebody. And you can also, and either team in my mind, both team, this is an excellent matchup. This is not lopsided either way. If the Eagles were to lose, they shouldn't be ashamed of themselves. I mean, the Chiefs are, either team here who wins this has the, I think, bragging rights to be like, we're either are a dynasty or we're a developing dynasty.
Yeah, it's an interesting take. I'm not sure the Eagles, can say dynasty, considering that it's a situation where so many of, the players from the Super Bowl 52 team are gone. Of course, you have the big 4, the core 4, the pillars, as I like to call them, repeating. But it'll be interesting to see.
Developing. The Eagles would totally be saying we are looking towards trying to create. No, the Chiefs would be, they win the Super Bowl. The Chiefs are a dynasty. The Eagles, are like, and I'm not including the one from 5 years ago. I'm saying this is a whole, like to your point, this is a whole new nucleus of players that you're hoping to build into a dynasty. That just for
Sure.
all the
Oh
listeners, I'm
yeah.
glad you made that point. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying that the Eagles, if they just win one ring, are not that crazy an Eagles fan.
Yeah. No, but this is the second, and it would be the quickest turnaround ever for an NFC team to win a Super Bowl with new head coach and new quarterback. So it'd be historic in its own right. But yeah, I mean, they're such a long way from even establishing, even a potential dynasty
That's
at
right.
this point. But Kansas City certainly would be in that discussion.
Absolutely. What do one of the most interesting matchups in my mind in this game is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs offensive tackles, who are very, very good offensive tackles. And I like their guard, Trey Smith as well, right guard, versus the Eagles defensive end specifically. I mean, who going into the game? Obviously, it all matters how it shakes out, how they're feeling that day, who's on their game, and but early edge, who are you leaning towards for that particular matchup?
Yeah, I like the Eagles in that one. I mean, there's a reason why they have a historic amount of sacks this season. If they get 5 more, they'd break the legendary 85 Bears record when you factor in the playoffs and the regular season. And they just come at you in waves. And I think it's sort of a discredit to the Eagles defense. I've heard a lot of people say that the 49ers, had they had a healthy quarterback, maybe, would have had a better shot to beat them. And I'm not so sure about that, because the reason why the 49ers quarterbacks were hurt was because that Philly pass rush just kept coming and coming and coming. They're relentless.
He was knocked out on the first drive of the game. I'm sorry. Like
and Josh Johnson, similarly was knocked out of the game. And obviously not trying to hurt quarterbacks,
no,
but
no.
a testament to them, and their ability. And I think, how they keep them fresh. Looking at the snap numbers in that game, none of the pass rushers participated in more than 2/3 of the snaps. So that's by design. Jonathan Gannon and Tracy Rocker, defensive coordinator, defensive line coach, respectively, engineer that so the guys are fresh and they feel that can be their advantage. Because theoretically, an offensive line is playing with the same 5 guys, but if the Eagles pass rush can come in waves and they have that just little bit of edge there at the end of the fourth quarter when everybody's tired, that can be the difference in the ball game.
So we had NFL honors last night, but if you guys are listening to it, it was Thursday night. As expected, we talked about this last week. The Eagles, went medalless. The one that sticks out most to me is Dayball getting it over Sirianni. If you say Doug Peterson, and not just because I'm an Eagles fan or maybe someone else, but are you in agreement kind of that the wide talent disparity between the Giants and the Eagles, it makes up for them getting totally waxed by a score of 108-45 against the Eagles?
Yeah, I would have voted for Brian Daboll, just because they didn't make really too many significant roster changes from last year to this year, and they made the playoffs, won a bunch more games, got the best out of Daniel Jones, and just made such a difference. And I think Doug Peterson, he say the same thing about Jacksonville, what a wasteland that was, and turn them into a playoff team. They of course stumbled out the gate initially, so credit to them for turning it around late in the season. But the Giants, they had a little rough stretch there in the middle, but for the most part, I think surprised a lot of people with how they did it. And that's usually who wins, who's the biggest surprise. Expectations were set for the Eagles, like we mentioned, the reasons before. So the Giants and Brian Daboll, well deserved, and would have been my vote too.
It is. I did not pick I did say the Eagles and Cowboys would be 1-2, and I to full disclosure, I wasn't sure that it would be the Eagles. I thought they would be 1-2, and then you would have the Commanders in third, and the Giants, far behind. I'm not a big believer in Daniel Jones, still not. But do you think that the Giants are they going to get him his money? Is he going to get big money this year, you think?
That'll be an interesting contract negotiation, in that I think we all know that even if Daniel Jones is at his best, is not in the elite caliber to be paid like Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes, and that's all right. Is he willing to take more of a team friendly? Are these quarterbacks who maybe are the Daniel Jones, or maybe someone like a Derek Carr, are they willing to take a middle ground, a true middle ground, from the elite and the rookie deals somewhere in the middle, because, things I think are still skewing towards, yes, less than Aaron Rodgers, but still, in that trajectory of, 35 million or so just for being kind of good.
Derek Carr is a great name for you to bring up in this conversation. Like, that's kind of like the leader of the pack that because Daniel Jones is not even in the next rung below the, the Mahomes, Hurts, Allen, Burrow group. Then you got another group, and then you got the Derek Carr and Daniel Jones group.
Yeah, and I think Derek Carr has consistently been there, and I think he's, someone who's shown that when he has a good team around him, he can play well and can take a team to the playoffs, and certainly has been consistent in that regard, but not going to carry a team necessarily or be one of those. And I think Daniel Jones is the same thing. So again, I think, he'll be someone that'll kind of test the market, and I think that'll have an effect on Geno Smith, because I think Geno Smith, maybe has the potential to go from that kind of third tier to second tier based on what we saw this season. And that'll be another interesting negotiation, watching how that one plays out. So I think the Giants want him back. I think Daniel Jones wants to be back, but it'll be, kind of up to the dollars and cents of everything to determine if he is.
So you really see that Geno Smith is back on the trajectory where he could get to tier 2 in your mind?
Yeah. Well, if he plays like he did this year and it's consistent, then, because that's what it's all about. It's the consistency. A lot of these quarterbacks, they play great at times. They play great, every couple of years. Yeah, but they're not consistently great. And so, that's kind of what separates them. And so, if Geno, it is like that, what we saw this year for the next 8 or 9 years, then he'd be, in that kind of number 2 tier. But just for 1 year, I think he's still kind of right above there in the top of the 3 range. And, kudos to him, a great story. And I'd love to see what he does next year.
It's always a, dangerous business trying to predict what Jerry Jones is going to do. But it's fun. And do you think Dak is back? Do you think, all this will blow over and Jerry will be back in love with Dak to start the season?
Oh, yeah. No question about it. Walter Payton, Man of the Year. Dak Prescott winning at NFL honors. And he's a good quarterback. He knows he's got to clean up those turnovers. And, I think it's a different story if Tony Pollard doesn't get hurt in that game in the divisional round against the 49ers, but injuries are part of it. He's got to kind of step up and lead in spite of injuries and find ways to win games. It'll be interesting to see how they do without Kellen Moore. Brian Schottenheimer promoted to offensive coordinator there with Dallas. Mike McCarthy looks like he's going to take back play calling duties. So, we'll see how Dak does there, but I think they're still going to put up numbers. And I think at this point, we're just talking about, Dak Prescott and legacy. Can he win deep into the playoffs and get this team back to the conference championship? And I think he's capable, but he might need, more consistent play or rely on the running game and, other pieces in place. Again, I don't think he's the guy that's going to carry, you single-handedly, deep into the postseason, but he's more than capable if everything around him is good.
Absolutely. He's for most of his career, I would say Dak's been better than what Eli Manning, and Eli Manning has 2 rings. All you got to do is get hot at the right time, and you can. And Dak's more than good enough to go on a run. I mean, this is a Philadelphia Eagles fan saying that. Like, y'all, I was a Tony Romo truther. I was always telling people that Tony Romo was actually a really good quarterback. Tony Romo was a top 5 quarterback in the league for most of the time. I mean, I would say right until the end where the back issues became crucial. He was a top 5 quarterback, and so again, to your point, Dak is more than good enough. They got to get everything right. I really did, again, Philadelphia Eagles fan saying this here, but I really didn't like the tweet from them, throw them under the bus, as the Eagles part of me is like, oh yeah, that's great. But for the fan of the sport and somebody who sees how these things happen, it's like, whoa.
Hey, it's on you, buddy. And they expect more. And if they're going to, kind of take that next step as a team, they'll have to deliver more. So
they will.
I didn't like it either, but it was fair criticism.
Yes. The source is more of the discussion. So back to the Super Bowl. So Mahomes wins the Super Bowl. does he have to catch, you know, my question that I'm trying to get at, does he have to catch Tom Brady in actual Super Bowl victories to have a real shot at GOAT in your mind?
I don't know if he does. I mean, I think he needs a significant number, maybe in that Joe
Sure.
Montana, Terry Bradshaw 4, kind of thing.
Hmm.
But if he continues to play like he's playing and the entertainment factor, the Mahomes magic, and
Yep.
kind of captivates, us as fans the way he has the first 5 years, I think that might go a long way in overtaking the GOAT because, a lot of what we process football as fans is, anecdotal stuff, when we're
That's
telling
right.
and grandkids like, oh my gosh, that play, was crazy. And when you talk about Tom Brady, his ruthlessness, his tenacity, toughness, the precision,
Hmm.
and all that, the machine-like dedication to becoming the best quarterback in the world, the best quarterback that we've ever seen. But like, you think about, the crazy plays, and it's not really there. It's just like, finding Mahomes, finding Gronk,
Consistency.
and just
Yeah. Yeah.
consistency. And so if we can, get Mahomes uh, a situation where he closes the gap on a significant number of Super Bowls, but continues to captivate our hearts and imaginations as football fans, then I think he'll be in that conversation without necessarily having to catch Tom Brady with that 7 number.
It sounds like to me you're kind of explaining a Jordan Russell scenario where it was never the expectation that Jordan was going to get 11 championships, but like you said, he captivated us so much and just had those iconic moments. It kind of
That's a
negated
great
the.
analogy. I never thought about that. I'm going to take that from you, Matt. That's really good. Yeah, that's yeah, exactly what I was thinking, and that's
Yeah.
a perfect point to that.
Hmm. Because I mean, Russell actually has like double, and then the 4 and 7 would be about double.
Yeah. I think he has 11 as a player. I think maybe he had
Yep.
two
And
more
then
as a
two
coach.
more as a coach,
Yeah,
which is just ridiculous. I mean,
that's nuts. Yeah. So yeah,
more Boston winning.
that's
So let's talk about this Super Bowl. Let's go with Eagles MVP for the game. Let's not get to Super Bowl MVP, but who do you think will be the Eagles MVP of this game?
I like Hassan Reddick. The story.
Popular pick this week.
So he 19 and a half sacks, and just like I said, being there, in Philadelphia, the
Mhm.
NFC Championship game, just to see how he dominated. It was just so relentless. Just he was so great off the edge. I think he's gonna have another fantastic game, and I think ultimately this game will come down to the Eagles defense making a play at the end, just like Super Bowl 52 was, where Tom Brady threw for more than 500 yards. He had a day, but the Eagles defense, Brandon Graham made that one play there at the end, the strip sack, forced fumble, Eagles recover, and that was the difference in the game. And I think it'll be something similar where Hassan Reddick has a great game, but the Eagles D makes a play at the end, and it might be Josh Sweat that makes it.
I
Maybe
love Josh Sweat.
maybe Fletcher Cox. I don't know who's going to make it, but I think they just have enough talent there that that'll be the difference there. And I think Hassan will lead the way, and might be the Eagles MVP there.
What about the Chiefs? What about the other side?
Chiefs, I think it'll be Mahomes. I think Mahomes he'll show up, and he'll show up in a big way. And he's going to go off and be Patrick Mahomes and show that the ankle's nothing and ready to roll. Like it's weird. I see this game playing out very similarly to 52, where you have a superstar, multi MVP type quarterback,
Scary.
champion, where Mahomes he's going to go off and he's going to put up MVP type of numbers. But I just think Philly might make enough plays at the end defensively to pull it off.
All right, so give us the Super Bowl MVP.
Well, yeah, it's a good question. I think if we're framing it like that, then I'd say Hurts would be the MVP because I think he's going to show off, his entire skill set. He's going to show off, his game at a consistent level, both running the ball, as he kind of led the NFL quarterbacks in rushing TDs this year, and his efficiency in the pass game. And I think it's just crazy that how many tight window throws he made this year, leading the league in passing yards in tight window throws, and the accuracy that he possesses, the trust he has in his receivers to throw the ball downfield, even when they're covered. And AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, I think will have big days. And he might do it on the ground. He might rush for a couple of touchdowns. But I think when it's all said and done, Jalen will have a game that will, if the Eagles are to pull it off, he'll be MVP.
All right, give us the score prediction, Omar.
You want a score prediction? Oh, that 38-35 that I said earlier. I think 38-35. Maybe the Eagles pull it out with a late Jake Elliott field goal, and you guys got to go grease the poles again.
Yes.
Next day.
If they pull this off and on the resume is Eagles beat Brady, then 5 years later Eagles beat Mahomes with two different quarterbacks, two different coaches. Eagles fans are just going to be too annoying. I'm going to apologize in advance for all of us. I mean, I'll
just say, wouldn't it be something if Brandon Graham has the difference-making play at the end again? They're going to build a statue for him. If they built one for Philly Special,
yes.
Got to build one for Brandon Graham. That'd be amazing.
There'll be like two Brandon Grahams, like strip sacking Mahomes and Brady, two different statues next to each other. Great visions, Omar. Thank you as always for coming on. You're a great watch on NFL Network. You all gotta check him out. He's on all the time. And also in the post game, during the week when you're trying to get your NFL fix in, but also in the post game, you'll catch him interviewing the big plays. You're there in Arizona, correct?
Yeah, I'm here in Arizona. It's been a long, busy week, but we're all setting it up for Sunday. So stay tuned to NFL Network all weekend long, and we start our pregame show at 9 a.m. Eastern. So we have I think 6.5 hours. Or maybe 8.5 hours, something crazy, but we start at 9 and we'll be there at the Eagles Hotel telling the Eagles side of it leading up to kickoff.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on, and we'll see you soon.
Okay, Matt, always a pleasure, buddy.